Are we on? We're on. What do you mean you made a record?
Well, that's what when I'm not doing just Bitcoin.
You do other shit?
Yeah, I know. Very rarely. It's pretty much Bitcoin. But
you're not a maxi.
Yeah, I know. I'm not. No, I am. I went to school for music, actually, for jazz drums at a conservatory in Boston. And then I hated having to rely on other people to, I'm the target audience for like a jazz solo drum show. And I would never go to that. You know what I mean? Like so I got sick of relying on bandmates and stuff to do anything. So I started learning all the other instruments. So this record I just did, it's like guitar focused and there's no drums. It's all digital drums. So it's like the total opposite of everything I do.
You put it on?
This can be the intro for the show.
It sounds like the kind of thing we would use for the intro.
Yeah.
Sounds a little bit Black Rebel Motorcycle Club.
It's a little Bay Area psychedelia, yeah.
Yeah, do you know Black Rebel Motorcycle Club? Yeah. First time I saw them, they supported Oasis, and they were the better band.
Oh, yeah, totally.
This is badass.
Yeah, man.
This is one of those times I don't have to pretend I like it. And go, yeah.
I mean, I could replace the lyrics and talk about what Bitcoin did and you guys can take it.
There you go. Let's get commission
anytime
going.
You want, man. Of course. Open source, baby.
You know when somebody's like, look at my picture or listen to my song, you're like, yeah, it's really cool. And you're like, oh, fuck, man. This shit is fucking terrible. That's actually badass. We would use that.
Yeah, of course.
We need to, we haven't changed it for a while, have we?
Yeah, I think we might have found the spot.
Look at you in your Bedford shirt.
We're going to the game.
Shit, I should have put mine on.
I'm gonna get one, and then I'll be repping in the.
It's an away game. You can't get one.
Tom said he might bring some.
They're coming.
Did he?
Yeah, I think Emma said she'd take care of me. I put in an order, so
sweet.
Yeah, I'm stoked.
Did they take your money?
Not yet, but they will. Don't worry.
I wonder if they charge you Bedford or international prices. Make sure they charge you Bedford prices.
I think that was they were like, do it here, because I was like, oh, if it's too much, I'll just do it online. They're like, no, let's take care of you. So
I would have told you to do it online. Welcome to Bedford, man.
Hey, thanks, man. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for coming in.
Yeah.
You are the rap show.
Yeah.
Of the sprint, and you're also the person who traveled the furthest.
What an honor. It feels it. I think I got about 6 hours of sleep in the last 2 days. So if I'm a little slow, that's what it is. But I'm so stoked to be here. And yeah, I haven't been to the UK in like 15 years, and it's great to be back, man.
Well, thank you for coming. I mean, it's a hell of a journey. Do you like Bedford?
I actually do a lot. I'm a huge sucker for, I'm a sort of an amateur gardener. And the British have the best gardens, English cottage gardens. It's you really do, you know? And so I've been loving it. Yeah, walking around the river and just checking shit out. And
saw the corn exchange.
Yep. Amazing.
Man, well, listen, thank you for coming in. Thank you for answering our call. We wanted to get some new guests on the show, some people we haven't spoken to before, which it's great to have you here. Also, thank you for all the great work you do at Bitcoin Magazine and Bitcoin Magazine generally. I think ever since, I would say Bitcoin 2019, Bitcoin Magazine has been just raising its game to new levels every year. It just gets bigger and better. The magazine gets better. The website gets better. The writers get better. The event gets better. We've now got an event in Amsterdam soon, which I'm going to. Yeah. I don't know how Bailey's done it. I don't know if he takes the credit or the team takes the credit or what, but Bitcoin Magazine is crushing it.
I mean, I'm just a tiny cog in a great, wonderful machine. But first off, Bitcoin is just growing, and Bitcoin Magazine is really a platform for Bitcoiners, right? So Bitcoin doing well and growing means Bitcoin Magazine is doing well if we're doing our job right? Yep. And our contributor network is just. I can swear, right?
You say what?
Okay.
Say what?
It's just the fucking shit, right? And the team is just so good at pulling people. I mean, I just submitted completely blindly, wrote an article less than a year ago. It was in September, and submitted it in, and then just was like, hey, I don't know, maybe you'd be interested, and they pull me out, and they're like, this is really good. You clearly understand this, but they invited me to come on and do a show. They did a Spaces, talked to me, asked me if I wanted to write more. And within, I was then a paid writer, within a few months of doing other stuff, and then, basically invited me to come on. And so
what were you doing before?
I was in hospitality and restaurant bartender stuff for
So
like
you got
a decade.
you got to ditch a fiat job and come and
Yeah.
do a Bitcoin job.
Yeah.
Sweet, man.
But it was great. I bartended in the Bay Area.
Uh-huh.
So the way I actually like first heard about Bitcoin was like the guy that put up Silk Road 2.0 like the next day was a regular at my bar who came in basically every day.
Well, the dude who got like 2 weeks in prison compared to Ross's
Blake.
life in prison.
Yeah,
like,
yeah, exactly.
Double life in prison.
Yeah,
double life plus 40 years.
Yeah, it's insane. And he was just a regular at my bar, and he just like came in. It was like probably the beginning of 2014-ish, right?
Yeah,
That makes sense.
Yeah.
And he was like, "Do you smoke weed?"
Yeah, exactly.
have I got the website for you?
No, actually, he had just bought a Tesla,
Nice.
which back then was like kind of a rare thing. And he was like, "Oh, I bought it with Bitcoin." And I was like, "I don't know what that is, whatever." And he was like, and so I went around the block with him, and he drove me around, and he kind of told me like the sort of basics about it. And then literally like I just started kind of getting interested in it and working all the parties for all these companies. And I actually worked Bitcoin 2019 as a bartender, which is so weird.
You did?
Yeah. Like really weird. Yeah. Being in the Bay Area, just like the proximity of it was so, and of course I didn't pay enough attention and didn't actually in earnest start doing anything until 2017. But,
everyone has a story.
Yeah.
Everyone could be a billionaire.
Nothing like losing, 50 Bitcoin on Silk Road or anything like that. So
Tim Draper's got 3 of my Bitcoin.
there you go. Really?
Yeah.
Man.
Yeah, we were talking about this the other day. When Silk Road went down, I had 3 Bitcoin on there I was using to buy books you can't buy in normal stores.
Right. Smart man. It's all about the books.
All about the books.
All about the books. I'm a big book man as well. Yeah.
Yeah.
So Tim Draper got it in the auction, huh?
He got it in the auction. I told him, I was like, Tim, can I have my Bitcoin back? Like, you bought a lot of Bitcoin there. 3 of those were mine. Come on, man.
Yeah, come on. It's only fair.
Yeah, you're profiteering off theft from me.
Absolutely. Government sanctioned theft.
Yeah. Come on, Draper. Are you a Bitcoiner? Give me my Bitcoin back.
What are you, Freedom Maxi or what?
Yeah, I see you there with your Bitcoin tie. Going around talking about Bitcoin. Yeah. Anyway, he can have those 3 Bitcoin.
Yeah.
He probably needs it. Well, listen, you're crushing it, man. And now we have the print magazine, which I am a subscriber to.
And I brought a copy here for you.
What do you got over there?
Yeah, I have the censorship resistant.
I mean, I think I already have this.
Yes, I do believe that one you probably already do.
I went straight and subscribed immediately. It's beautiful.
It's the team that works on it. Like I came in and joined Annabelle and Joe Rogers and Pete Rizzo and Germano on that team. They're just so talented and
That's
savage and
team.
incredible. And just really, they just care so much, right? Like when I started there, I'm on the West Coast and they're sort of East Coast. Everyone's kind of all over the place. And I was like,
I'm going to give that to Danny because I've got this one.
Oh yeah, fuck yeah. I got more for you guys too. So, but like I asked, I was like, what's the hours that we all work, like what am I expected to be in, at my computer, doing this? And CK just kind of laughed and he was like, dude, we're Bitcoiners.
Yeah, what the fuck you on about?
And I was like, all right, cool, let's go. And
Danny, what are your hours?
All the fucking time.
Yeah. Bitcoiner hours. Yeah.
Bitcoiner hours.
But like, what are your actual hours?
I mean, I don't know. I have no routine, no schedule.
Yep.
When do I check up on you?
I never. But that's,
how much holiday are you allowed to take?
I don't even like as much as I want.
Yeah. It's Bitcoin hours, man.
Yeah, man.
You know your
100%.
job. Do your hours. Do like
100%.
Yeah, as long as you get the work done.
And when there's a deadline, I work way more than I would probably work a normal. And it's like, boom, 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 boom. And it's the best. Like, it's not.
Do you know what the difference is?
overtime.
Do you know why this is? Me and Danny were talking about this the other day. We don't have jobs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the difference.
Yeah. I think it's really an important thing to distinguish. A job is something you feel obliged to go to. You have to turn up.
100%.
There are set hours. You go, you're a slave, you pick up your wage, and you go down the bar. Like it's bullshit, right?
And you're working someone else's dream.
Yeah, but sometimes you can work someone else's dream and it's not a job.
That's true.
Like Danny not only works on the podcast. Well, I guess I don't know. I've never even asked Danny this. Like, is it your dream to be a producer of a podcast?
I mean, dream. I don't know.
But you live in the dream, right?
Yeah, exactly.
He flies around the
Hundred
world.
percent. The
He's
dream versus living the dream is different. You know,
But, like-
the ideal dream versus the like. I don't know how I got here, but this is the best.
Yeah.
Like that's kind of how I feel.
Just fly around the world and talk to cool people.
Yeah,
Like,
I mean, like a year ago, whatever, and then you get a phone call, come to the UK,
Right.
come hang out. Yeah, I mean, it's cool but people earn the right to for this to happen. But like the football club is my dream, right?
100%.
Danny works on that. Tom works on that. Emma, they all work on that. They're all helping someone else's dream, but they enjoy it. I think the thing is like, I don't consider this a job. I just consider this what I do and I get paid for it. Like it's my just life.
Totally.
So there's no like moment because I've had shit jobs, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Dude, worst job I ever had. I used to hammer handles on umbrellas for 8 hours a day. Literally go in,
Wow.
hammer handles on umbrellas.
That's the most UK thing I've ever heard.
I was a teenager. I was in a factory down at a place called Kempston near Bedford. And it was fucked up for two reasons. The place was split into two with a big wall down the middle. One side is where they printed all the kind of triangles of the umbrella.
Right.
And the other side is where they stitched them together and put the handles on. And I was on the handle bit,
right.
but I was the only handle hammer on
Right.
it. But all the ladies who stitched the kind of triangle sections together were that side as well. But they're all Indians. They didn't speak English. So I didn't have anything to talk to them about. But I could hear over the wall all the lads doing the printing, just having fun all day.
Yeah.
And I was like, can I just go to that side and put the handles? And they're like, no, because the way the production line works, once the blah, 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 you have to be there. So I used to come up with games because what would happen is I'd hammer a few and I'd look up and like 15 minutes have gone. I've got another 7 hours of this shit.
Time
So I used to come up with games like, how many can I do in an hour? How many can I do in 15 minutes? Can I beat that 15 minutes? I was like, this is fucking bullshit. I'm not doing this for my life.
Yeah.
Whatever, wherever, that was a long time ago. But like, that's a job.
Yeah.
And it's bullshit. And I hated it. This isn't a job. We just get up and work and we hang out, whatever.
And it's like when, you know, if I close my work laptop after a day of working and I open, you know, my personal, you know, my music production one, I very often just continue working on the exact same thing and just reading about and researching, you know, Bitcoin or whatever. It's like this idea of like clocking in, punch out. Oh, let me just leave that behind. It's like, no, like this is, I feel a huge responsibility and really an honor that I have this platform to work with, you know, editorially. It's like I feel so responsible to the community to make sure that I'm, you know, honoring the space that has taken care of me so much, right?
Yeah.
And like, I'm not trying to run this editorial and jam shit down people's throats. Like, yeah, we're going to do badass stuff like censorship resistance, whatever, but we have a political issue coming out. And like, I'm not doing my job if I don't, you know, show every side of this thing. It's like that Bitcoin is for anyone.
That's funny you should say that. I say another thing as well, by the way. I think when it's not a job,
Yeah.
you end to actually work more hours.
100%.
Because you're not watching
I
the
work
clock.
way harder for Bitcoin Magazine than any bar job or anything I've ever
Because you're
had.
not watching the clock. You just,
100%.
you've got goals, whereas, yeah, so you just work as much as you can because you just want it to be brilliant. But the other thing about that sense of responsibility, I get that. And we do. And I say we, I mean, the show is me and Danny now. Like, he is as much part of this as I am. And in some ways more than me. Like, he runs it. He allows me to do other things. But we feel a huge sense of responsibility with this. You can't get away from your own bias and opinion, right? Of course. People know my biases. They know my opinions. But we're consciously aware that the show should not be a platform for my opinions. It should be a platform for everyone else's. And that's why we feel this sense of responsibility for two things: to get as broad a range of people as possible, every political idea, but also try and elevate voices that maybe haven't been heard before. You know, try and get new people out there. And we've had some successes of that. Troy Cross.
Oh, yeah,
has been
he's the man.
Yeah, he's been a huge success. He's, you know,
He's blown up.
Yeah.
Like, and it's such a testament to what you guys are doing. Really, like that.
Well, it's a testament to him as well.
100%.
Yeah, all he needed was like a fuse lighting under, and then off he went. Jason Meyer, who we recently had on.
Yeah. The book coming out.
Yeah, because yes, we were conscious there was a long period of time where a lot of our guests' opinions were maybe from the right of libertarians. We weren't given enough of a voice to people from the left. So for a couple of months, we've been doing that, and you know, we've elevated some voices, and
It's huge.
Hopefully, that crosses the aisle. But that sense of responsibility is important. I'm not sure everyone gets that. I think some people get lost in what their agenda is. When we have an agenda for everyone because Bitcoin is for all.
Yeah. No, I 100%. I think people use Bitcoin because they're like, oh, hey, I made this crazy, contrarian bet 5, 6, 7, 8 years ago, and now I'm a multimillionaire or whatever. It's like, of course I'm going to be an egotistical maniac. It's like, that kind of makes sense. But you're doing a great disservice to Bitcoin by doing that. And the way I look at it is like, in many ways, it is information warfare, right? If we want to use the terms of that sort of party, sure. Why are you continually handing ammunition to the other side that makes you look bad and makes them easily dismiss this? And when I see this and I talk to people, whether it's in my company, whether it's friends, influence, whatever. And when I see people doing stuff like that, it's like, I'm not going to shame you or make you feel bad or whatever. But it's like, you realize that you just discredited all of this stuff by calling that person this thing or saying that name or this. You've proven their bias against you that they decided before they walked in. You've confirmed it.
Because it's cool to be based, and also you get a lot of social capital from being an arsehole sometimes.
Yeah, which is just like, we got to move towards Waters more maximalism, where we are bringing in people with like logic and not exclusion, And I think the battlefield has changed, and Bitcoin is much more about, we need Waters warm and logical arguments, and less like, are we going to be socially, manipulated? Are there, there's less social attack vectors in Bitcoin now than there were 5 or 6, 7 years ago.
Yeah.
And
by the way, this isn't an anti-maxi thing. This is an anti-arsehole thing.
Of course.
I think maximalism is what I understand it to be. I think super important. And I think you will see a gradual change in the guard with some people as well. Like
100%.
Lynn Alden, fucking crushing it. She's unbelievable. And I think she's crushing it. Not only is she smart, but she comes with really good reasoned and rational arguments.
100%.
She's not attacking people. She's not insulting people.
No.
And actually, if you want somebody out there on a platform educating no coiners or regulators or the media, she's perfect.
100%. And like Andreas, that guy, I mean, yeah, there's things I disagree with him about with some things, but like, what a nice, sweet guy.
Where's he gone? Come back, Andreas.
Yeah, I know.
I've missed that dude.
I know,
so
me
much.
too. I'm so glad that I really came into Bitcoin in 2018 bear and was just able to go to sleep every night listening to Andreas and learning. I mean, just like,
I need to
what
go
a
back to that.
teacher.
I've got a couple of weeks off now, and I think I'm going to have a week of going back and watching old Andreas videos, reading Nakamoto Institute
100%.
articles, and just refreshing on the old stuff.
100%, because we've become a culture of preaching instead of a culture of teaching, and that is just the incorrect way to go forward. And the idea of heterodoxy, being the path that succeeds with Bitcoin is just ridiculous. It's like, we want to try to be as decentralized and anti-fragile as possible, and yet if you don't agree to, only eat meat, and anyone that is LGBT is disregarded or whatever, it's like, that's ridiculous. It's like, that's so antithetical to Bitcoin's ideals and just being a good person. And like, you're also not bringing in more people into the network, which is like it's like you're doing everything wrong.
I had a really good argument on the LGBT thing recently. In that, by the way, I do think there are some issues with teaching about sexuality to people too young,
of course,
and talking about gender stuff too young. I've got kids. I don't need them to be going to school and getting that. Teach them math and English and French and history. That stuff can come later, and I think parents can do a lot of that work. At the same time, what I think that has done, that's led to some discriminatory behavior towards the LGBT community. But somebody made a really good point to me recently. They said there should be the Bitcoiners should feel an affiliation with the LGBT community, because they're two communities that have been attacked by the state.
Yes,
for a long time, even prior to the trans issues being fought for. Prior to that, when we just had. It was illegal to be homosexual. I mean, we're not far from Bletchley Park, where the Turing machine is. Was he prosecuted, or was he prosecuted for being gay?
I can't remember.
I mean, he went through some shit for that.
Than prosecuted.
Wasn't
he like chemically castrated?
Yeah, that's what I was certainly some manipulation.
But I'm just saying. I mean, that's not too long ago in distant history. Okay, and so gay people, gay and lesbian people had to fight to just get basic equal rights from the state. And we're fighting for basic economic rights from the state. We've both fought the state. So there should be an affiliation with that.
100%.
And so separate what you disagree with on how maybe certain parts of these groups campaign.
Totally.
from the fact that these people deserve equal rights. And I thought that was a really good argument.
Totally. And then also it's like, you know who like loves gun ownership and stuff? Karl Marx. It's like, no, he's like, the working class should own guns and protect them, and I'm not necessarily, do whatever you want, but like there's so much, common ground between these groups that Bitcoiners, from the heterodox Bitcoiners just immediately write off. And it's like, why are you shutting yourself off to that? It's just so, it just doesn't make any sense.
But I think that's changing. We are seeing as Bitcoin goes more mainstream, some of the libertarian ideas might be difficult to sell into other people. And so as Bitcoin spreads to the mainstream, we're going to get more people who are traditional conservatives and traditional progressives coming in, and they're not all going to be converted to the ideas of libertarians, and therefore these voices are going to be elevated and they're going to share their view maybe from a progressive background, a conservative background. And hopefully we're going to have a more, how do I put it? Secular.
Yeah.
for a better choice of words, but a more kind of, I don't know. Hopefully, what I think it is, during a cultural war where everything's been highly politicized, I hope Bitcoin is the thing that brings people across the aisle and works together. And I think that's my hope. And I hope if this show can do a little bit towards that by bringing people together and saying, you know what, we disagree on this. Like with Jason, you may disagree with Jason Meyer on his politics, but you can't disagree with him on Bitcoin. He believes in Bitcoin. He believes in censorship. He believes in the rules of consensus.
Yeah.
Exactly the same as you, but he just sees a different use for it from you.
Totally. Yeah. I mean, I've been in communication with a lot of lefty Bitcoiners, and, I know you had Margot on, who's amazing. And yeah, there's like, I think the biggest, sort of a subculture or culture that will adopt Bitcoin next is the walkaway leftists like myself, that I will never vote for a Democrat ever again. Because they've abandoned me completely. I consider myself working class, and I feel that they no longer represent us at all. I mean, they've sold us down the river. It's just ridiculous.
Great. I want to hear this, and I'll tell you why. Because one of my frustrations is we post a show with a progressive or a leftist, and YouTube comments you get, oh, why are you talking to them? They just want to groom children, or they just want to. It's just like, well, hold on a second. You cannot categorize the entire everybody on the left based on what you've seen on Libs of TikTok.
100%.
Libs of TikTok picks out the worst ideas that have come from the left. You cannot attribute to that. That's like attributing white supremacy to all people from the right.
That's what I was going to say. It's like you're doing the same game here. Yeah. You're doing lazy bucketing.
Yeah, don't do that.
And it's just such a disservice. Yeah, it doesn't make any sense.
Do you think the Democrat Party can recover?
I think at this point, no. And I think it needs to implode in the sense that I think America needs to break the purple party dichotomy. It's just ridiculous. And, I think it does need to break down. I think it needs to have a true progressive party again. I'm sorry, voting to expand NATO is not progressive. Voting to print a ton of money and send a bunch of money off for military stuff is not really super progressive. Again, printing a bunch of money and giving it to banks to dole out as pandemic response is not necessarily super progressive. I think we need a new party, new leaders. I just think the institution of the DNC is they've just proven time and time again they're too corrupt to be trusted. And I realized that a bit ago. I think people are realizing that now and channeling that and giving them hey, no, come over here. Like, jump in the water. Water's warm. Like, Bitcoin can actually actualize this shit that, Elizabeth Warren says she cares about. You want to bank minorities and fight Wall Street and big banks, but you think Bitcoin's the devil and you're going to do everything you can to make sure Bitcoin loses. Like, what is really your incentives here? Like, why this would actually probably, and this is why we're seeing all these lefty voices come up, because it does answer a lot of these questions. Like, Bitcoin does kind of fix a lot of this stuff.
Well, they're going to lose the next election.
Yeah, I really think so.
I can't, it's a very strange scenario because I'm not a Trump fan, but I can't help but feel like they're doing everything they can to make sure he can't run.
Yeah, I think because they're probably pretty scared. And I'm with you too. To me, like, there's really no difference between a Biden and a Trump.
No,
it's purple party.
Yeah.
And I think, why do all the right let Trump get away. I mean, he printed the trillions of dollars. He locked down everybody. Like, why does the right get a pass? And they say, oh, these Democratic mayors. It's like, yeah, they fucked shit up too. But like, Trump did the lockdown.
Trump signed the checks.
Exactly.
He signed the checks.
Exactly. So, and that's what he does. Maybe that's why he was there in the first place. Like, he bankrupted his way. He knows what debt is. He bankrupted his way into the presidency as the president continually was trying to say lower rates, go to zero, let's go negative. Like, he basically did everything he possibly could to destroy and cause inflation, really, to destroy the purchasing power of the dollar. And yet everyone like blames Biden for that. And it's like, I mean, yeah, I don't think Biden necessarily helped, but to say this is like Biden did that because gas prices are high, it's like, well, yes, Trump moved us towards maybe a bit more isolationist and a bit more, energy independent for sure. But like, these issues of monetary expansion was, this is 2008 stuff. This is 1971 shit. We're really going to blame Biden for that? I don't like Biden at all. I think he's one of the worst politicians. The drug bill, the crime bill. I mean, I think he's one of the greatest systemic racists of all time. And I think people saying defund the police, Black Lives Matter, vote Biden no matter what. It's like, that doesn't make sense to me.
Well, I think you have an issue, which we have a similar issue here in the country. And I wish people would recognize this more. Whether or not it's Trump or Biden in power, day to day, your life, your economic position is not going to change hardly anything at all. They've all got a very, very similar economic policy. There might be some tweaks here on tax on the right. They might reduce taxes for the super rich a little bit more. Yada, yada. There's some slight policy changes, but I just feel like it doesn't matter who's in power. Our lives are going to be almost exactly the same because people don't represent anything anymore. Like, what do people stand for? Do I honestly think whether we have a Labour or Conservative Party, my life's going to materially change? Absolutely fucking not here. It's just not going to change.
Totally.
Tax is going to be very similar. Policy is going to be very similar. It's almost like it's like everyone's converged to the center to try and win as many votes as possible, and there's very little difference anymore. And I wish people would recognize that.
I feel the same with like music production. It's like algorithms and festivals have driven the mean to the top, and so now you have bands that don't even have their own fan bases, but they play and they're headliners at festivals. But if they tried to kind of do their own thing, that they're festival bands, they're Spotify algorithm bands, right?
Dude, I had tickets for Rage Against the Machine headlining Reading.
Fuck yeah.
And they pulled out because Zach De La Rocha busted his knee at a show. By the way, which he did it at Madison Square Garden, still fulfilled the next 2 nights, but said he's not coming to do Reading. That's disappointing.
That's very disappointing.
And they replaced them with the 1975. Like, what?
Yeah.
Like, what? you should have replaced them with Slipknot or Metallica or something.
Yeah, Slayer.
Yeah, Slayer.
Yes, anything that... Yeah, 1975 is pretty much the exact opposite. Yeah.
Like, thanks. So I'm no longer going. But interestingly, when you talk about music, I'm just going off on a tangent here.
Yeah.
I just bought a record player.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. And Daniel was saying, well, you need to get some records now. So I went on Discogs and bought 30 or 40 records to get myself going.
Nice.
Quite interesting. And maybe it's just because I'm old, but I didn't buy any new records. It was all old stuff.
What was the newest? Amy Winehouse?
Yeah, which I, by the way, think is the last great album ever made.
So I have a theory, and I think you're exactly right. I think interesting new music stopped rising to the top when Spotify sort of took over. And that happened, it was founded in 2006, but it didn't really get huge market share until like 2011, 2010. When have we had a great record since 2010, 11?
When did Back to Black come out?
I think that was like 2007. I mean, I would say
earlier even maybe.
Danny disagrees with me.
I think it's not my favorite Kendrick album, but I think To Pimp a Butterfly is a great album.
For sure. Yeah. I mean, I'm not a huge Kendrick fan, but I agree that it's definitely certainly incredibly culturally important and very influential as a producer and bringing, like free jazz to the popular, I'm a big jazz guy and I love him for that. Like that's the shit.
I think when you go another 25 years down the line, you say, name the 50 best albums of all time. I think Amy Winehouse was the last great album to be made of genuinely brilliant music. But people disagree. That's just my opinion. I don't like Kendrick Lamar. I'm not a fan. I think it's the last great album. And I attribute it also because I think she was the last artist to really make record on drugs.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think that's part of this festival algorithm shit. It's like people don't want to take risks on these, you know, because they're like, why would we do that when there's like 8 other cookie cutter, you know, C+ bands, B- bands that like, why would we take our risk on maybe, you know, a drug addict giving us an A- record or maybe not even delivering? It's like, we'll just, you know, they can't take the risks on the margins anymore. And so it just all has homogenized into this just, and I think the political world has done that exact thing. When was the last time we had a great politician? The last person that inspired hope, you know, was around that same time. Like Obama did that. And then he dropped more bombs than Bush and deported more people than Trump. You know, it's like, okay, great.
But now he makes Netflix shows.
Right.
And lives in a mansion by the ocean.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's sad. Seyfriedin would call it Fiat music. Yeah, maybe. Just out of interest, what's your favorite album of all time?
Favorite album of all time? Well,
favorite and the best.
Yeah, great point. I mean, like sort of just first reaction. I think my favorite would probably be "In a Silent Way" by Miles Davis.
Wow.
Probably. And I noticed you had a Miles Davis picture
Yes,
when I came in.
If I didn't know, I remember Ronnie Scott's could have taken you.
Oh, wow. Oh, shit.
Yeah.
Yeah, big jazz guy. I went to school for jazz drums. I think I might have said that earlier. But best, I mean, and it's funny because I don't even think I would include it in my top 5 by that band, but I think Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band is probably the best album of all time because of what it did. But it's not even close to my favorite Beatles album. I never put it on. But the way that it changed music, it broke everything open. You can do anything you want. Production, songwriting, like just the most unbelievable. It has my favorite. I mean, the Day in the Life is probably my favorite song, right?
I've never been a fan of the Beatles.
Yeah.
I never had a Beatles moment.
Oh, man.
I know. I feel bad for it. I just never did. I think
don't feel bad.
Like thrash metal. And
yeah.
What about you, Danny? Best and greatest?
Best is hard. My favorite is probably Illmatic.
Oh, nice.
That's a great shout.
Yeah.
I mean, that's definitely the best hip hop album.
Back-to-back good songs.
Have you watched the Nas documentary about it?
No.
It's good. I mean, that is a good album.
That's
one of those
fantastic.
few albums that doesn't have a single weak song.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No,
it's a fantastic record. Yeah.
For me, I'm going to go back to Rage Against the Machine as the best. The reason I pick it as the best is that also every single song is incredible.
Yeah.
Like every
and there's a lot of songs on there.
10 or 12, but like all the way through. Bullet in Your Head, Wake Up, Killing the like every single, to Take the Power Back, every single song's brilliant. There's not a filler in the slightest. Every single song could be the first single. But my favorite album is probably, it's a tough one. Use Your Illusion 2 by Guns N' Roses.
There you go.
Yeah.
Very nice.
I controversially think Use Your Illusion are better than Appetite.
Nice.
Yeah.
I like that. I'm a contrarian. My record label, that's, just me and my friends, is called Contrarian Records. So
nice.
I'm all about the contrarian take. Even though I literally just said that I think Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band, which is the most boring answer of literally all time, and like great. But I really do think in terms of like what it did, like it just broke everything open. Like the progressive rock guys, the Canterbury Kids, like Yes and Genesis were like, oh wow, we can do anything we want. And then like it just broke everything open, and for that reason. But again, it's like I wouldn't even put it in my top 3 Beatles albums.
And I tell you an interesting thing about having children is you get introduced to new music you would never have listened to before. So my son introduced me to 21 Pilots. I've never have listened to them. I think they're pretty good. But the one that stuck out to me, by the way, I'm not a fan of her and what she says publicly, and I wouldn't go and see her in concert unless I was with my daughter. But I thought that Billie Eilish album was pretty good. And it's not something I would ever choose to listen to.
100%. That's one of the best radio songs ever.
Bad Guy.
Yeah.
The production on that.
Get me out of here. Yeah, it's incredible.
It was all done in her bedroom as well.
Yeah.
Have you seen the documentary about that? There's a documentary about them making that record. It's her and her brother in her bedroom making that record. They make the whole record in there. But the lyrics to Bad Guy are kind of concerning for when you got an 11-year-old saying, Dad, can we put on
Yeah. It's like,
what's she up to there? I think she's sucking dick.
Yeah.
But I mean, I think that was, I was impressed with that album.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a sucker. I mean, the hardest thing to do in music is write pop. It's the hardest thing. People love to say that it's formulaic. Like, sure, but the formula doesn't mean that it always works, And that to me is, I'm such a sucker for really good radio pop songs, even though I'm like, I love avant-garde jazz and like let me listen to like Can and This Heat and like weird krautrock shit and whatever. But then like, yeah, I'll hear Bad Guy on the radio and then put it on Spotify and listen to it like, a dozen times in a row because I'm like, what the fuck?
Yeah, what
like,
happened
I love
here?
earwigs, like earworms. Like, dude, I'm all about radio singles like
You're
that.
quite eclectic with your taste then.
There's a Duke Ellington quote that I really like, that there's only two kinds of music: good music and bad music. And that's
I like that.
That's how I feel about pretty much movies, like everything. It's like, and yeah, there are obviously like I have my bias towards certain styles that I like, like actually, like I know you're a huge metal fan. Metal is one of the ones that it takes a group like transcending it. And then if they do transcend it, they're like some of my favorite bands of all time.
So
right?
you would have been
like Metallica, Tool, like come on,
Nirvana.
man. Yeah. Like you can't fuck with that shit. And actually Nirvana was very late in life for me, like recently.
Oh,
in
really?
the last couple years, I've been like, wait, because I'm such a contrarian, I just sort of dismissed it until now it's cool again to like Nirvana, and
well,
so good.
My tip on Nirvana is like, is In Utero is the best album. The quality of writing.
No
on that song.
apologies, dude. That was one of those earworm songs where it like clicked for me. I think it was live at Reading actually.
Yeah.
And it was a repeat one.
Heart-shaped box for me.
Yeah, so good.
I had tickets to go and see them at Brixton Academy. They announced 4 nights at Brixton Academy, and I was watching MTV, and I think it was Kurt Loder came on and announced that Kurt Cobain had been found dead. Yeah. So I never got to see Nirvana, and Nirvana at Brixton Academy would have been incredible. Same, I never got to see Alice in Chains, so this is my Alice in Chains arm. So that's Lane Staley. The lyrics from Nutshell. Lyrics from Black to Way to Blue. Like I'm a huge fan. Never got to see them live with him.
Dude, they brought. I'm a huge like harmony person. Like Simon and Garfunkel. Okay, Bookends and Bridge Over Troubled Water are other two of my top favorite albums of all time. And I would say Bookends because it's more fun. I'm a huge harmony person. Alice in Chains does not get enough credit for their harmonies, like at all. Period.
They're the best of the grunge, best of the 4.
Yeah.
To me, they were the most unique. They were the most groundbreaking.
100% agree.
But they weren't the most commercial.
Yeah.
Pearl Jam was certainly. I mean, Jeremy was such a well-written commercial song, and Nirvana just crushed it with "Come as You Are," and but Alice in Chains for me just wrote the best stuff. Facelift is an incredible album. Dirt's an incredible album. Jar of Flies. When you listen to Nutshell Unplugged, like kind of. Now, I mean, it's my favorite song. It just blows my mind.
Yeah.
Dude, we're going on and on here. We should probably talk about some Bitcoin stuff because people are going to be listening still trying to be Joe Rogan. I'm here for Bitcoin.
But you've not even got into Whiplash, your favorite film, with the jazz drummer.
That's true. Have you seen Whiplash?
I have.
You must have.
I have. And I have to say, I think this is another contrarian thing where like that, I totally understand why everybody loves it because, visually and that, J.J. Simmons.
Yeah, you got the Oscar
acting
for it.
incredible. But like it's such a bastardization of my life that I just like can't I watched it and just laughed the whole time.
So what's
when he got hit by a car, I was like, what the sorry, spoilers. I was like, what that's the peak of the drama of like a conservatory story. I don't know. It was, but I understand everyone really loves it. So
okay, so I love that. I put up their top 3 film. Like,
oh wow,
E.T., Casino, and that. Yeah.
E.T., Casino, that's amazing.
Yeah.
That's a great list.
Yeah.
Casino is Kino.
Again,
I
more
love
contrarian
Casino.
again. Casino's better than Goodfellas.
I really like Goodfellas, but I respect that a lot. And that's just a badass thing to say.
Well, I just can't respect anyone who thinks Goodfellas is better than Casino because it's distinctly better writing, better acting, better story.
Yeah.
I mean, if somebody said, like if Danny said he
I think
preferred
Goodfellas is better.
you're fired. You're done. You're finished. Jeremy, can you handle audio?
Yeah.
But it's not.
I mean,
have you ever watched them back to back?
No.
Yeah, watch them back to back.
It's a lot of movie.
Watch them back to back. So 2 days in a row, and tell me if you honestly think Goodfellas is a better film.
All right, I'll do it.
And
got a long fight.
You can't be swayed just because Gimme Shelter's in Goodfellas.
Yeah.
Just because that Gimme Shelter moment is, I think, wins everyone.
Yeah.
But it's not about that.
All right, I'll try it.
Yeah. So what are we missing in Whiplash? What do you see that we don't see? I just see a relationship between two people where you have to make a decision whether it's abusive or it's mentorship.
Yeah. And to me, I think it was very clearly abusive.
Of course.
And just not really that's not what conservatory is like. That's not what mentorship should be like. No one should attempt a mastery like that. I think it's just like a really weird kind of precedent to set.
But if he'd never thrown the symbol at... What's his name's head?
I mean, tough love is important,
Would
right?
you? What is it? Bird? Would you have done Bird? Like,
yeah. Man, I don't know. I think he sort of like almost like fetishizes jazz a little bit. And I think that there's kind of a little bit of a misunderstanding sometimes. And like, I don't know. I'm not sure. I'm not saying you're missing anything. I think it's just like I have too much context.
The film wasn't about jazz though for me.
Right.
So I don't have to know jazz,
Totally.
or understand jazz, or even like jazz to enjoy the film.
Right.
For me, it was about that kind of like fine line between mentorship and it was clearly abusive.
Yeah.
But there's that moment at the end when he pulls out the performance. They have that look, and you're like, "Fuck yeah!"
Yeah. I mean, I respect it. I do. It's just I think it was just like too close to home and too not close enough to home at the same time.
Did you have a J.J. Simmons in your life?
No. I mean, I had some amazing teachers. I studied under Bob Galati, who's the man in Boston, and Tom Giampietro, and Steve Langone. Shout outs. No one ever threw a cymbal or a chair at me. I've definitely bled on my drums from playing so hard. Yeah. Well, Bitcoin Magazine, they throw shit at me all the time, but no drummers.
I bet this means you hated La La Land.
Actually, I like La La Land more than Whiplash. I think because of that, it wasn't so directly like my life. But there were definitely some things in there where it's like, you know why they called like Charlie Parker Bird? It's like because he liked chicken so much. It's like, well, that's not really true. like Yard Bird, like it's like a I don't really know, man. And like so some things like that, I'm like, I sort of feel like I say he sort of like fetishizes jazz and doesn't he like is obsessed with it, but doesn't. I don't know. I think he's kind of missing some of the point, I guess.
Right, we should really get some work here, Daddy. You threw us down another.
I know. I'm sorry.
Another rabbit hole here. Okay, listen. I didn't follow the Tornado Cash thing too closely to begin with because I just don't pay attention to ETH too much, and also I'm just less and less on Twitter these days. I'm just
smart.
Spending a lot less time on it. But a really good thread, I think it was from Miles Suter. Was it Miles who said
did a really good thread? Yeah,
Miles Suter did a really great thread where he said like Bitcoiners need to pay attention.
100%.
So for anyone who hasn't been following what happened with Tornado Cash, can you just do the kind of like TLDR? What happened?
Yeah, for sure. And I agree with you. Like I don't care about ETH at all. I don't think about it very much, but I do think about stable coins and the dollar.
Yeah.
And regulatory action and privacy and open source code and all of the things that connect all those things. And I mean, I think it's such an important learning opportunity that really differentiates like why our incentives are the way they are, why our consensus is the way that it is. And even though Bitcoin is like very, clunky and, blockchain is not this magical wand thing that's awesome. It's like blockchains kind of are clunky and kind of suck. But like, that's exactly what you want. Like you want that in hard money. Like you don't want it to be easy. You don't want it to be cheap. And so I think to not learn from, I would say potential failure, certainly, and co-option by like dollar-backed entities. I think if you ignore that, potentially you're opening attack vectors in Bitcoin, right? And Bitcoin can't nearly be as co-opted or dollarized at the consensus layer as Ethereum. There's no, just because you have more Bitcoin, that doesn't mean you have any consensus authority. And that's not as true in Ethereum, So Tornado Cash, anyway, to sort of get to that, it's just an open source, non-custodial like Tumblr, runs on Ethereum virtual machine, so EVM, similar to a Mixer or a CoinJoin kind of situation. Obviously there's some pretty big differences. Ethereum doesn't have a UTXO model. They're all account based, which is why there's, that like, well, how many Ethereum even are there? It's like, well, it does exist in there. It's just harder to find because it's every account is like a debit or credit versus like you can just get TXO out and you can see the literal UTXO set. So Ethereum, because of that, has a lot more, ability for regulatory fuckery. You can have a Bitcoin wallet or a private key, and you can make a new public address, ad infinitum, basically, and I can continue to pay that to you. On ETH, and I'd have no idea what other balances you have. On ETH, like I know everything you have. I know like all of the other coins you have, all the little tokens, all the stuff. It's like very, very, very transparent. And so Tornado Cash is one of the more popular, things on Ethereum. And it's like kind of an infrastructural, like bright light, actually. Like it's actually pretty great. But it's getting on August 8th, the OFAC, the Office of Foreign Asset Controls, which is like a subset of the Treasury, U.S. Treasury, that controls like sanctions from the government, blacklisted Tornado Cash, and said that it was connected to a North Korean money laundering, like terrorist hacking group. Basically, if you're using this or associated with it, you're committing illicit activity. And it was really, really strange the way that it was all done. Like the Secretary of State, Antony Blinken, like put out a tweet that like specifically called out the protocol. And there were actually no like specific sanctions made to developers or businesses. It was like literally, if you're associated with the protocol, this is the illicit thing, which is kind of new. It's always, anytime they've made an attack on a mixing service or a tumbler, and that's happened before, it's always been kind of directed at the people running it. Oh, you're running a mixing service. Okay, But Tornado Cash is a smart contract. It's still running. It's just no one's putting, the volume has completely imploded, but like it's still running. There's nothing they can do to like stop it. It's just if you used it and then wanted to do anything else on Ethereum, Circle, which runs USDC, has already agreed to blacklist, all of the addresses that the OFAC asked them to.
Well, what's the implication of this? Because we've had Bitcoin addresses which have been blacklisted.
Yeah, I mean, it's been attempted before. I mean, I think Marathon put out a thing like, not too long ago where like, we're going to start, doing OFAC compliant, and then like...
They want to signal in the blocks.
Yes, and then basically immediately like Fred Thiel put out a video and was just like, it's not really possible. We can't really do it. It's not profitable. And just the way mining works in Bitcoin, it's much harder to censor transactions in Bitcoin. Like even if you have 51% of the hash rate, right, which no one has, but say you had 51%, all you would have to do as like if they were censoring, I would only just have to wait 20 minutes instead of 10 minutes.
You're eventually going to get in the block.
Of course.
Yeah.
And, is it possible that a dollarized entity could, subsidize, unprofitable Bitcoin mining with the dollar to, try to create like, some sort of censorship ability in Bitcoin? Like it's possible, but man, is it expensive. Man, would you need a ton of energy, and you need billions and billions of dollars of hardware that needs to be machined, which can't happen. So it's not impossible, but it's like practically impossible.
But there's two things to separate here. There's a censoring of transactions from the blockchain, which absolutely you can't really do. As you've explained, it's too difficult. But at the same time, when an address is sanctioned, me as an individual, if it's sanctioned and blacklisted by OFAC, I'm unlikely to be somebody who's going to want to transact with that address. I'm not going to want to receive Bitcoin from it or send Bitcoin to it.
Right.
As somebody maybe has an address which has been KYC'd and connected. I just want to avoid that association.
Totally.
It's not worth, it's too risky for me.
Yeah. And there's just huge differences in a proof of work system to a proof of stake system.
Well, so what I want to get to here is, what is the difference? Yeah, you're about to answer that. What is the difference here? What are the implications of Tornado Cash?
Yeah, well, it's so many. I would say the biggest one right off the bat is the implication that regulatory, entities are here. The fight has started. Open source developers are being arrested for writing code, which is free speech. And they absolutely should not be arrested for that. And it's incredibly dangerous precedent.
Well, let's explore that.
Yeah.
Not just take it as a given. There's the writing of code. What if you wrote code that allowed you to steal money from a bank? Is that free speech?
Sure. I mean, that's like building a road and then getting mad that criminals are like trafficking, or bootlegging on it. It's
but are we separating somebody using that code, or so is it the writing of the code or the using of the code for the action?
Well,
because if I write code that you use to rob a bank, like steal the money from a bank, you're saying, well, I shouldn't be arrested for writing the code. But what if I write the code and so
explicitly to break the law?
Yeah. So if I hack into a bank and steal their money with code I've written,
But the hack's the crime.
The hack is the crime.
Not writing
the
the
theft
code.
is the crime. It's not the code you wrote to brute force in or whatever.
yeah. But okay, but if somebody writes code to allow people to mix something, where is the crime at this point?
There shouldn't be any, because there's no reason that privacy should be anything but a fundamental right.
Okay, so that's the separation. That's what we're saying.
100%.
So writing allowed anyone to, but say you
Like, there's tons of legitimate reasons to use Tornado Cash.
Oh no, I get it. I
specifically.
get it. I'm
Yeah.
just trying to break down the differences, just so
Right.
people understand. I'm not supporting any of this.
Totally.
But if I wrote the code specifically for a criminal organization to use it, so if I was contracted by a criminal organization to write them code to launder money,
Right.
have I then committed a crime?
I mean, that I think is sort of what the state is saying, is that like this is
They're
a North
stretching it to that.
Korean monetary laundering, I think it's like the Lazarus group or whatever, that there's this like hacking group that's using cryptocurrency, the extended space to like avoid US sanctions. Yes, that would be illegal, but it would be the avoiding of sanctions. Like that would be the illegal thing. It would be the
There you go.
theft. It would be the hacking. The actual mix, and there's an infinite amount of reasons why. And in Ethereum, it's actually more important because of that XPub public address private key stuff we were talking about. It's much more important in Ethereum because it's account based. And so, I can see Jimmy Fallon's entire, ETH history, whereas I can put up a public address and you can't see, anything that I've done in Bitcoin, even if it literally came out of the same private key.
They need XPubs.
They need XPubs. That's right. That's right.
I know what
Oh,
those-
Shinobi says hi, by the way. He told me to give you a hello.
Oh, are we back friends, me and Shinobi?
I hope so.
Yeah.
The water's
hope so.
warm. Come
I
on.
hope so. Send him back. Send some love back.
I
to him.
will, of course, man. I'm trying to break all that shit down. Everybody.
Honestly, I want to be friends with everybody I've fallen out with. Anyone, even Safety can get in touch. I'm happy to be friends with everyone.
100%. And if you can't be friends with people you disagree with, like, do some checking in on yourself.
I always think the people you disagree with are the people you should spend more time with. You try and understand them. Disagree, you don't have to have a beer with them. Try and understand them. Don't block people just because you block someone as a dick. Don't block them because you disagree with them.
Totally.
It's fucking ridiculous.
I actually use Twitter mostly to break the echo chamber, and it gets me in trouble a lot. But it's like people think I'm this like alt-right guy because I like love Pepe and I'm like a free speech maxi and whatever. And it's like, no, I'm actually like pretty progressive in a lot of ways, pretty libertarian in a lot of ways.
You don't even eat animals.
I don't even eat animals.
Can I talk about that?
Yeah, you can.
Yeah, you don't
of
even eat
course.
animals.
I thought it was really funny when they dropped off the thing last night. They were like, and the vegetarian and, risotto. I'm like, you could have just said risotto, I guess. You didn't really need to call me out
The
here.
fucking freak. We got the freak's meal.
Yeah.
Right? Go and sit on the freak table.
Yeah. We got the food for our food. Does anyone want to eat that?
I was a vegetarian for 16 years.
Wow.
16 years, 2 years vegan. And I've been toying with going back for a little bit.
Yeah, I'm actually kind of toying of doing the opposite. I've done about 10 years and
It's good to mix it up.
yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Totally. And you just eat a lot of carbs and that shit sucks and it's just bad for you. And I've had like some psoriasis stuff bust out because of it. And like, if I don't take my supplements, I feel really shitty.
Dude, when I wasn't working and I was a vegan and making every meal, I was the healthiest I've ever been.
Yeah.
When I went back to work, I got ill because I was eating carbs and shit.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, how many dinners as a bartender did I have that were just like Cliff Bars and Red Bulls, like, above a trash can? You want to know what bartending is? Like, that's what it is, right? It's just so bad for you. But yeah, back to Tornado Cash and stuff. So yeah, there's just a lot of big differences. I think one of the more interesting, sort of the main differences between proof of work and proof of stake is sort of how validation and mining works. And again, we already mentioned, like, just because you have over 50% of the hash rate really doesn't do much. Like, you need an extreme amount of the hash rate to really do any sort of censorship and then continue to run and keep pace on everyone else. It's just not really incentivized to do that. And then also, like, you look at the mempool and, if there are transactions that aren't getting put into blocks that normally would, like, then you can kind of, okay, we can start to see very clearly that there's censorship happening because why wasn't this high value, fee, transaction recorded in the last block, but one that was cost less was. That you can very tangibly see the value in a candidate block, like a block template on Bitcoin.
And so the guy who created Tornado Cash, he's been arrested.
Yeah, I believe so. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And is still in jail as far as I know. Yeah.
And as we as Bitcoiners, I would help support his
Yeah.
because we should. Because
this isn't about Bitcoin. I mean, this is the U.S. government and the dollar system beating an open source project and a free speech project. Like, if you don't think this is a horribly bad precedent and something Bitcoiners should care about, like, I don't. This isn't like, oh, Bitcoin's winning because ETH is losing. It's like, no, this is a big change that's happening, and like, I don't give a shit about ETH at all economically. I think people are very utopic and naive in many ways in the system, but I don't think everyone that's involved in ETH is like a bad person or a bad faith actor. I think that there probably are bad faith actors involved. And I think the Joe Lubin in the ICO, pre-ICO era saying, hey, this is how you avoid KYC and like, investing like limits, here's how you do it. It's like, I think that's pretty shady. And there's a lot of banking that was involved right away at the beginning. JP Morgan has a huge part of Ethereum infrastructure. And so this idea that like, oh man, like it's user activated soft fork, let's slash away Coinbase and let's slash away all these government entities and regulatory entities and banks. It's like, they've kind of been in there from the get-go. So, but my point now is like, it's irrelevant whether or not you think Ethereum is a good faith product or a bad faith product. It's been compromised by the US dollar system, by stable coins, by losing the actual economic weight of the reserve asset. So let's get into that for 2 seconds. Like what's going to happen, versus the user activated soft fork, in the big block wars. Bitcoin as a native asset can exist on any fork. And we probably have forks that we don't even know that exist that we could go sign and put our economic weight into, and sell them. And a lot of us did that with Bcash and whatever. But there's so many more that exist that we've never looked at. Bitcoin can exist as a native asset on as many chains as it wants because it's just what it is, an asset directly related to that chain. There's no reserve asset to it. Stablecoins are the total opposite of that. You can't have a stable coin that's $1 possibly exists with $1 value on multiple chains. It can only be pegged 1-to-1. So this merge that's about to happen where like there's going to be, proof of work ETH that still exists. We still have Ethereum Classic that will probably get a lot of stuff. There's going to be, USDC ETH, and there'll be this sort of like, okay, where's the fork going to go? Where's the economic nodes going to go?
Does it come down to whoever has the reserve which backs it claims where it is?
Yeah, it's
so if USDC, if Circle, say we're rejecting proof of work, and we're going with proof of stake,
which they are,
then if anyone held the USDC USDC is Circle, right? Yeah. If they held that, then people who are trading that know it has no value,
right? And it's not just like, okay, it splits the fork and now it's 50 cents on one chain. No, it's like it's $1 and it's pegged to one chain and that's it. And so USDC itself has like $55 billion worth of value, and then Tether has like another 45 or something, and then all of the other algorithmic stable coins that people use for DeFi, a lot of them are backed by USDC or Tether.
So what about DAI? Because that's slightly different.
But it's backed. I mean, there's
50% backed, right?
Yeah, but that's humongous, And so,
but does that mean the one that stays on proof of work only loses part of its value?
I mean, but a depeg of a stable coin is sort of a fundamental.
It just sounds like a huge
presumably they'll just have to go to the proof of stake system. They won't really have a choice, and that's kind of the point of this, right?
It sounds like such a huge shit show.
They're walking into like we think the Fed is walking into a buzzsaw. It's like Ethereum is like sprinting headfirst into a buzzsaw.
When is the merge?
Should not go.
I think it's meant to be 15th? September 15th. Yeah.
I bet it doesn't happen.
I think it probably does, but I don't think it should.
I don't think it should.
They should not, like, ETH is not the worst idea in the world. It's just one of the worst executions in the world. Like a supercomputer that's unstoppable code where you pay people to run code for you. Genius. Trying to make it economically like important or rare or scarce. Why are you making your block space artificially scarce if you want to run supercomputer code? It just doesn't, like, why are you artificially burning it? Why you don't want it to be rare? You don't want code to be scarce. You want people to be able to run code as cheaply as possible, and to artificially do it this like hard money ultrasound money meme is destroying Ethereum.
Well,
like it really is.
The problem is it's never known what it really is. It's tried to be everything, right?
Yeah.
It's tried to be a bit of Bitcoin, but a bit of smart contracts, a bit of this, bit of that, bit of everything.
Yeah.
Is the primary issue with the merge in that post-merge it becomes state captured?
I think it already is state captured. Yeah, I really do.
So,
I mean,
so is it? Yeah, but it's
well, you're perverting the incentives away from the miners,
yes,
and giving it to the stake validators and the holders, and so which is going to only compound over years. You know,
so it's more state captured.
Yeah.
But of those validators, like the large ones are generally in the US, and they're the ones that are going to be OFAC compliant. So then the entire network becomes OFAC compliant.
Yeah, I think there's like 11 pools that have like almost 70% of all staked ETH, and like one of them, like Lido, is like 35%. It's like half of that. And the way that Ethereum validation works is it's difficult. Like again, we kind of talked about, you know, it's easy to tell which would be the competitive candidate block. So I think I was saying that I was thinking of this analogy of like Bitcoin mining is like a monocrop. It's like, did we talk about this already?
No.
I know we talked about it.
We talked about
it. Yeah. It's like, it's strawberries. So if you want to go build a candidate block, you go out to the field of the mempool and you look at all the strawberries and you just pick the biggest, juiciest ones, and it's super easy, and it's not that hard. Oh, the reddest, biggest, boom, and you fill your 2 megabyte basket or whatever, 4 megabyte basket, and fill it with the biggest, juiciest strawberries. Miner extracted value and staking pools is like, it's like you go to building the candidate blocks is very complicated, and it takes skill. Because to actually extract the value to be like, oh, run this smart contract first, then this, front run this one, front run that trade first, and then validate, like, because you can see, you know, what, you know, people are doing. And so you can actually make a move before their thing goes through, and you can take out the, you know, the juicier, that's what MEV is, miner extracted value. So that's like going to a huge farm that does tons of crazy stuff, and you don't know anything about farming or vegetables or fruit, and you have a basket and you see the strawberries and you go, okay, these are the juicy ones, and you put them in, but you miss that there's a huge potato crop under there because you didn't know that potatoes grow underground. You didn't know that there's an apple that's like, you know, 30 feet above you.
But so what? Just that's life. Go figure it out.
Well, it's just what it does is it centralizes staking pools even more.
Oh, I see.
So you have to be in the biggest staking pool. It's not, you know, like me and you could create a mining pool on Bitcoin that would like 99.999% produce the exact same candidate block as like the biggest mining pool, as like slush pool or whatever, right? But like Lido's versus, the next staking pool in ETH, like they're going to have very different strategies, different techniques. And when you see one pool that's doing better than the others, you go to that one. Yeah. And so you stay there. And not only do you stay there, they don't even have the code for you to even be able to leave at this point.
Because the economics incentive will always be...
Right. To stay there, and they'll make it very difficult to move pools. Right now, you literally can't even. They haven't even built that code. Do you think the developers are now going to want to build that code to be able to slash Coinbase after they just arrested a developer? No, I really don't think that they will.
I think this is why Harry Suddock says that Bitcoin mining pools will eventually trend to zero commissions.
100%.
Because that's all they can compete on.
Yeah. Stratum V2 is super important. We have to figure out ways to distribute mining rewards in a safe and private way. There's a lot of stuff we do need to figure out with mining pools, but like the incentives is always, if you see a mining pool that is perverting the financial incentives of just mining the most expensive fees, you would leave that block because it's no longer the most, like you would leave that pool because it's not the most profitable pool. And
the issue isn't
and you can do it in 30 seconds too.
And the issue isn't so much itself with OFAC compliance in that we don't even have to have the argument about sanctions and whether they're beneficial or not, yada yada. I don't particularly want to support any terrorist group.
No, but totally.
Once you're captured by OFAC compliance, you can be captured for any reason at all because you're captured. The state has full control at that point.
Yeah, I mean, that's why I say I think ETH is really running into a buzzsaw, because it's like, the only thing right now that is sort of keeping this supercomputer decentralized code thing is the miners, is the proof of work miners.
Well, to me, it just becomes essentially a company that has to follow any regulation that's thrown at it, and people want to use it to follow any regulation that's thrown at it, it will still operate.
It's not an asset. It's like a social network company.
Yeah,
you're right.
Yeah, it's a social network on a blockchain.
100%.
But it can no longer ever make any claim to be hard money, even though its current claims are ludicrous.
Yeah.
It's even more ludicrous now. It can never make any claims to be hard money. It can never make any claim to be decentralized. He could say it's distributed to some extent, but no way is it decentralized.
Yeah.
No way is it censorship resistant.
And the merge is going to make all that worse.
Yeah.
Because they're setting, there's all this, like data debt, all this smart contracts. It's thousands of gigabytes. And so they're going to create a point where you don't actually have to validate from Genesis anymore because it's so ludicrously expensive computation wise. That they're going to set like a checkpoint and everyone's going to, start validating from this point, which only allows that, perverse, chain to exist. It's, validating from Genesis is, complete fidelity to Genesis is an incredibly important thing in Bitcoin. That's a CK term. Shout out to CK.
Love you, CK.
Yeah, love you too. Thanks for everything. It's an incredibly important part that you can validate everything back to the beginning. And in ETH, it's going to be impossible to do that. And it already is incredibly hard, but it will literally be like, you can't do it. So that's it. Yeah, like they're LARPing on a lot of that stuff. In my opinion, it seems like decentralization theater. I don't know why you would want to do a blockchain for a lot of this stuff. I don't know why you would want to artificially make block space scarce. Like, I just think they're doing a lot of stuff that doesn't really make a lot of sense. And they have every right to do that. Open source, do whatever the hell you want. I don't care. I do think that, pushing these narratives of ultrasound money and that we're decentralized and we're a supercomputer that's unstoppable code, it's like very clearly that's not true. None of that stuff is true. We're seeing that.
The thing that I think is super interesting is like, if they go ahead with this merge, there's going to be the proof of stake Ethereum. And they used to say, I don't pay too much attention to this, that there was going to be no proof of work like fork from this, that it was just going to move across to be entirely proof of stake. That now seems just clearly not true. Like, there's enough people that I think want to stay on proof of work.
Yeah,
but it's somebody actually forking it. It's somebody.
I'm sure it'll happen, but if it doesn't, they're fucking stupid if that doesn't happen. But like, what does it then become a choice of? Like, do you go with the centralized, like completely compliant Ethereum, and then there's still a censorship resistant Ethereum? Like, maybe you have to. That's
what I think is going to happen. I think Ethereum is going to be around for a really long time. I just think it's going to be completely co-opted and not be a supercomputer and just be this like CBDC generator, basically.
Ethereum classic.
Yeah.
Would you say USDC is essentially a CBDC or is becoming a CBDC? Do we even think that it could be captured by the US government? Go, well, hold on, they've done the work for us here. We got this shit.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sort of the theory that CBDCs are almost kind of like a red herring, where I actually think the government would much rather have a private entity run money, and would much rather, because I think a private entity, a private company, has much more, like rights to be exclusive and to not give services to everyone, whereas a government probably directly issued state, money would probably have a lot more like restrictions on what they can restrict. Whereas I think a private entity like USDC, like they're very intertwined with the US dollar system and regulations, but they could choose to not service someone if they didn't want to because they're a private company and they reserve that right. Whereas like a government, I don't think a government issued money, could reject a citizen from using it in the same. It would be more difficult. So yes, I do think USDC is essentially the CBDC of the US. And I don't know if the Fed will actually print a dollar coin or anything like that. I think like USDC is probably what will be used. I don't see its market share going away. I don't think what it's just done to take over Ethereum, they're going to just compound that and just get more and more and more powerful. So yeah, I'm less worried about a CBDC coming out, and more worried about like mass adoption from governments of private entities that issue their own currency.
I mean, August the 15th is going to be a date for the diary. Get your Butterkiss popcorn in. I
would take a bet that it doesn't happen on that date.
I've got a feeling it's not going to happen. I've got a feeling.
I mean, we'll see. There's a lot of interesting stuff. Like I think there's even like the ETH 2.0 contract where everyone's staking their ETH was directly funded from a Tornado Cash thing, which is like, what does that mean? Like, does that mean that they can just comp like,
oh shit,
how many billion, you know, like we don't know what that means. Like we don't know what the implications of that mean because it depends on how they want to regulate.
Hold on,
you know?
could somebody dust the network with small amounts of Ethereum?
That's exactly what's happening.
That's what's happening right now.
Well, that's a way to fight it.
100%.
Yeah, just dust everyone with Tornado Cash.
Totally. And
shit on
that's kind of what they're doing right now. And that's one of their main defenses is just, like, let's throw mud everywhere and then we're all muddy and then hope that they just go, that's too much work. Or they just hired 87,000 IRS agents and they're about to, like, blockchain is not transparent. I mean, is not transparent. It's very transparent.
But didn't something similar happen with the OFAC Bitcoin addresses that people started sending Bitcoin to them with messages of like, fuck you? And
Yeah. Like some opportune stuff. I'm not 100, I don't know a ton on that, but
all right, a good place to finish on this because we got to go and watch a football match.
Fuck yeah, we do.
We do. 3 wins in 3 we want. What are the implications, therefore, for Bitcoin? Can this happen to Bitcoin? What are we got to be aware of? Like, where are we going to have our defenses up here?
Well, I would say that the Bitcoin system is very dollarized. And I think people are really naive about that. I wrote an article called The Bitcoin Dollar, and it's about this idea that, it's entirely possible that, maybe Bitcoin is actually very good for the dollar system. And we've seen nothing but the dollar go up for the last year. And there's 2 different values of ways you can look at the dollar system, right? There's the individual purchasing power of the dollar, which is obviously going to shit in many ways, like inflation wise, but versus other foreign currencies, it's obviously doing very well. And that is the crux. There's the net purchasing power of the US dollar system. So we can actually use Bitcoin and I say we as like the US government could use Bitcoin to hyperinflate or inflate the dollar system into a reserve asset that doesn't care, about the demand. And, basically recreate the petrodollar system where we're forcing people to buy dollars first to buy Bitcoin. And that's essentially what's happened. Like 95% of like Bitcoin trading pairs are US dollar based. Like everyone uses stable coins. This idea that the government doesn't want like Tether around is like ludicrous. It's like, of course they do. They want as many people using the dollar as possible across the world so they can shovel inflationary effects into it. Like the government loves USDC. They love Tether, in my opinion. I think that they do. And the fact that they've gotten away with it for this long kind of proves that, I think, in a lot of ways. So there's a dollarization of Bitcoin that's definitely possible, perverting some incentives. The way that's going to happen is dollar incentives perverting away from good custodial practices, like, someone offering like USDC yield on your Bitcoin. So you put your Bitcoin there, like that's an attack vector. Potentially someone could subsidize a not profitable miner that's censoring stuff with dollars. You could even end up paying mining fees like with USDC at some point. Like there's some perversion that the dollar system could do, and certainly with second layer stuff. But I think on the actual base layer, just Bitcoin, it's so simple and it has a much smaller attack vector for centralizing forces.
Satoshi got so much right. And
truly.
everyone since.
Keep
this fucking thing simple.
Yeah, I mean, simplicity is a feature of Bitcoin. And people say that it's not. And they're like, oh, well, ETH does this and whatever, this thing does that. And you can't do this on Bitcoin and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, good.
Yeah.
We want Bitcoin to be as clunky and as just
basic, boring
as possible. And then also, like, let's innovate, do really cool stuff. Let's do federated Chalmian mints. Like, let's talk about covenants. Let's talk about ordinals. Let's do really cool shit on top of Bitcoin.
What are ordinals? Come on, man.
It's a really cool system. Basically, the idea is an ordinal is just like a number. So, like, there's cardinal numbers and ordinal numbers. And so ordinal is just like your order. So like the third duck would be an ordinal, like versus like there's 3 ducks, that'd be cardinal. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So ordinals is a system where every Satoshi in a block is just numbered first in, first out. So like the Genesis block, had Satoshi, 1 through 50, million, whatever, or way more than that. And so ordinals is a system where you actually look at like just a fun way to look at it. But you look at like, oh, this was the first Satoshi right after a halvening, and you can look at the very specific sat, and you're like, oh, this is Satoshi, 1 billion, and it's like I got a bunch of zeros, and you can create artificial value on cool looking, Satoshis.
You know what this is? Number plates. It's personalized number plates.
Yes.
Yeah. Does that not kind of ruin fungibility though?
It doesn't affect base layer at all.
Okay.
It's all just a way
game.
to look at it.
Okay.
Yeah, ordinal theory.
Okay, but back to the implications. What about for people who are working on privacy tools for Bitcoin? How should they feel right now?
I think everybody should be they should be prepared for the worst, and they should do everything. I think GitHub censoring people, government, arresting developers is just such a bad precedent. And I don't think I really would just be so afraid if developers stopped developing and were so afraid. But I do think that many should probably publicly say they're no longer doing it, and I think a lot of people are already doing that. We're seeing a lot of people step down that probably aren't really stepping down, and I think more of that is really good. I think we need a lot more anonymity in development, and we need more support, and we need more avenues from Bitcoiners to give to developers to actually enable that to happen. Like, we can't be LARPs. We make all of our money on hardworking devs, and we should give back and support them.
Well, I want to give back and support the legal case for this ETH guy.
Of course,
we absolutely
me too.
support him.
I really do, and I don't believe in ETH, but I believe in open source, and I believe in developers and free speech. Like, aren't we Bitcoiners, right? And I'm obviously anti-US dollar, and I don't want the dollar to win, even though I think the dollar will be around for an incredibly long time. And I don't see Bitcoin like removing the dollar's existence. I actually think them being very sympathetic, or just very simpatico moving forward. I think they both help each other a lot in a very strange way.
All right, man. Well, you ready to go and watch your first soccer match?
I am.
Soccer.
Yeah.
Soccer ball.
Believe it or not, even though I look like I'm like 4'2", I was a keeper in high school for a bit.
Well, I would have liked to have played against you because I would have chipped the ball a lot.
Yeah,
you told us last night that you were a goalkeeper and a basketball player, and I don't believe either.
Yeah. I mean, I'm a pretty bad point guard. I got like a 15% 3-point shot probably on a good day.
Well, listen, this is the wrap show. That's a wrap.
Yeah. Hey, thanks for having me, brother.
Dude, anytime, man. Well, listen, we'll be up in California soon, November time. We'll hang out again, talk again. Enjoyed having you on the show. And how do people find you and what you're doing?
Yeah. Next time, I promise I won't be like 6 hours of sleep in like 48 hours.
No, dude, you killed it. So, you're fine.
I appreciate that.
If we weren't going to watch a football match, we'd probably run for another hour.
Love that. You can find me on Twitter at MarkGoodW_IN. So Mark Goodwin with an underscore between the W and the IN. Also my website, same thing, but with a dot instead of an underscore. And then subscribe to Bitcoin Magazine print issue, and support the good shit, support authors, support developers.
Peace out, bro.
Peace out.
Cool.
We did it. Take care.